So we can, do you have
Not
extras?
Sitting right here.
What was that?
Not sitting right here.
Okay. Do you have any extras? I know we've given you a bunch, or do you need new forms?
I really only brought the ones that I was required
okay.
to turn in
That's
today.
okay.
So.
What we'll do is we'll make sure on the next available break, I'll have my clerk count off how many there are. We'll get them reprinted. I think they keep forms in the clerk's office, and then put the date on, and then you can fill them out again, and then we'll hand them back over to the state. Do you intend these subpoenas to be the equivalent of your witness list, or were you going to file something separately?
I was intending for this to be my witness list. I think that would probably be easier.
Any objection from the state?
No, we understand. I think we've been given fair notice, Your Honor.
Okay.
I do have some other challenges on some of these subpoenas, not, again, that we need to necessarily address right now. But I would like to advise the court and the defendant that he's requested a subpoena for a person identified as Sammy Fleischman. We have learned that Ms. Fleischman has relocated to the state of Texas. Therefore, we will not be able to secure her appearance here at the trial on behalf of Mr. Brooks. If he wishes to make arrangements for transportation for Ms. Fleischman, he may do so himself. Ms. Fleischman, it is my understanding, was the woman who organized the parade, or was one of the people that organized the parade, but that's how she's identified in the reports, and therefore her relevance may or may not be an issue as well.
All right, did you hear the state advise you of that?
Yeah, I wouldn't even begin to try to know how I can do something like that from a jail cell. I'm pretty much broke.
Well, you're advised, though, if she's out of state, there's other procedures would have to be followed, and the state is not obligated to make those arrangements since it's an out-of-state witness at this point, okay? Did you hear me say that?
I follow.
All right, thank you. Anyone else in the subpoena list?
I mean, there's others that we have objections to, but I don't know if you want to address that right now, Your Honor.
Well, I'd like to have you put them on the record so that Mr. Brooks knows, and if he wants to respond now, that's fine. Otherwise, we can take it up a little bit later.
The other two would be Erica Patterson and Detective Steve Guth, seeing as they have already testified and were subject to cross-examination. We would request an offer of proof as to what relevant testimony, if any, they may offer. And then there was one of the parents of the victims, Kathleen Darrell. She was not present at the parade. And it's really unknown what type of testimony he would want to elicit from her. So we would be requesting an offer of proof to establish the relevancy of those witnesses, Your Honor.
Do you want to address that now or have an opportunity to think about that and address it perhaps at the end of the day?
It's really nothing to think about. I think it's pretty clear. They are, besides Miss Patterson and Detective Guth, I mean, as far as with them, I think it would be relevant because we have paperwork that was filed by the district attorney about there being no factual basis nor no domestic violence incident on November 20th, which they testified to. I think that that's perjury. So that should be...
Well, you're giving me an argument, I guess, on the relevance of their testimony, sir, but as I recall the testimony, you are the one asking the questions about the 20th. The state dismissed that charge. I granted that request to dismiss it. There's nothing that you are bringing to my attention that I can tell would be perjury, but I don't know if what you're trying to tell me is you'd like to question them about their credibility because that charge, explain to me a little bit further.
It would be a lot to do with credibility and also a few questions that I believe would still be relevant to even the events of the 21st. there's still some relevant things that I feel should be answered, that I feel the jury deserves to know.
Well, I'm going to give him some leeway. He's a pro se defendant. He has a right to call witnesses. These are two witnesses that testified. He did have the opportunity to cross-examine them, but I think it's reasonable for him to want to question them further, and I'll keep them on your witness list and instruct the state to assist as they have already offered. What about this Kathleen Urell? I know she's on their potential witness list that was filed.
And that,
To correct, I apologize for interrupting, but I did misspeak. She was at the parade, but she did not see, she cannot testify to anyone being struck or injured by the SUV other than her own children that she learned after the fact. And she cannot identify the driver.
All right, Mr. Brooks?
it's still relevancy there. She was at the parade, and as we just heard right now for the record, that she would be directly affected by it, by her family being victims in the matter. Also, she gave statements and she filed a report. I feel like her testimony would be relevant to the matter.
All right, I'll keep her on the list as well. Anyone else on the list of subpoenas?
No, Your Honor, we'll just await to receive the corrected subpoenas and then we will endeavor to have them served.
All right, thank you.
Just
Thank you.
one thing real quick, Your Honor.
Go ahead.
And if I'm misspeaking right here, feel free to correct me. You said something to the effect about getting more paperwork in during the lunch hour. What was that referring to?
I
Was that referring to
believe
the
it was
subpoenas?
referring to a witness list. If you had one, but what you're indicating is you'd like the grouping of subpoenas and the witnesses who are identified to be reflective of your witness list without filing an independent witness list.
Well, I missed this subpoena. It's only one, but I would have to change it because it was filled out in the same way as the other ones. My mistake for missing it. I got a lot of paper.
What's
here.
the name on it?
Catrice Babayis. I don't know. It's spelled.
All right,
I don't want to butcher it.
That's okay. Hand it to the bailiff, and then I'll take a look at it.
It's filled out in the correct. The incorrect, just like the other one. So I would have to essentially change it. But I just wanted that for the record that was lurking in my paperwork.
That's okay. Thank you for providing that. The last name is Babiasz.
Yes, we're familiar with that witness. Thank you, Your Honor.
All right, we'll add that to the list. State still have the originals that I handed over to you.
I do.
All right, why don't we give all of those back to Mr. Brooks so that he has those, including the one in my hand. We'll make sure he gets new forms. And then if you could just make sure you provide those at the end of the day today, or by the end of the day.
But I don't know if I'll be able to fill all those out on a break.
If need be, I'll let you sit here at the end of the day until you get them filled out, so to make sure the state gets them right away. Okay?
I can try to knock out as many as I can during the breaks to make it easier.
We'll
But
give
I'm
you
not,
time.
I'm not sure that,
We'll give you time. Don't worry about it. All right, anything else from the state?
No, thank you.
Mr. Brooks, anything else from you?
Yes. At this point, I'm probably beating the dead horse, but I just have to state for the record anyway. I would like to direct Your Honor to, I believe it's Milo versus United States. (505) F2D 1026. Are you familiar with that, Your Honor?
Not off the top of my head, but I can pull it up.
And also Higgins versus Levine, 415 US 533. And those cases are being brought up because of the continuing asking of me about the jurisdiction that I've been challenging. I believe they're very, very relevant to this matter.
Could I ask Mr. Brooks to repeat those numbers again?
For both,
Yes, please.
for Milo, I believe it is, or it might be Milo, but Milo.
M-I-L-O?
Milo.
Is it M-I-L-O, the spelling?
MELO.
Oh, I had it right the first time. Okay.
505 F2D 1026. And Higgins versus Levine, 415 US 533.
Anything specific you want to draw my attention to?
Well, there's cases that challenge the jurisdiction, which I've been doing, challenging the jurisdiction. Milo versus United States states once jurisdiction is challenged, the court cannot proceed when it clearly appears that the court lacks jurisdiction. The court has no authority to reach merits, but rather should dismiss the action.
For the record, Mr. Brooks, the Higgins versus Levine is 415 US 528. Perhaps
Well,
you're drawing my attention to page 533, but the site for the case is 415 US 528.
that could be so. I apologize if I'm stating it wrong.
What about the other
I
case?
believe it's, well, the information I have is 533. That states the law requires proof of jurisdiction to appear on the record of the administrative agency in all administrative proceedings. We have yet to prove the jurisdiction. It has yet to be proven. I've filed a motion. I've stated on the record numerous times. I have yet to get an answer.
And you're specifically referring to the documents you filed on October 3rd.
I've been challenging jurisdiction since the beginning of trial, probably as far back as when I became a pro per defending myself. Also, you can look at U.S. versus Lopez. You can look at, I think that's from, it may be from 1995.
Do you have a citation?
Just really quick. I may have to find it in my paperwork for the Lopez.
All right, well, you locate that. When you find it, let me know outside the presence of the jury. I'll take your request under advisement. I'll take a look at these cases. I don't believe they're going to change my previous ruling that the issues that you have raised are without merit, as previously ruled on. But I'll take a look, and if I feel I need to address it further, I'll give you an opportunity to argue.
I believe it should be addressed. Thank you, Your Honor.
All right. Then with that, we are still going to continue, Mr. Brooks, and we'll bring the jury out. I presume the state has the next witness available.
Yes.
All right, Madam Clerk. Okay. Did you say you thought Lopez was
From 1995. I believe that's the one I was referring to. If it's the same case, it's 514 US 549 for the state. 514 US 549. From 1995. Thank you.
All rise.
Thank you, everyone. Please be seated. State may call its next witness.
Thank you. And the state calls Battalion Chief Jim Hawkinson. I believe that's all the questions I have for this witness.
All right, do you have any cross-exam?
I do. Did you ever receive, well, first of all, good afternoon, Chief. Did you ever receive any additional information about the man with a knife in Frame Park?
Other than the radio report or the traffic on the radio?
Yeah, other than that.
I did not.
To the best of your knowledge, do you recall that ever being taken care of?
I
As
have
far
no.
as-
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
As far as, do you know if there were any law enforcement that responded to that radio report?
I am unaware of that. I don't have any knowledge of that.
Do you recall, make sure I get the language of this correct. Do you recall making a report with Officer Wagner?
I do not.
I could be looking at the wrong thing prepared by my. I could be looking looking at the thing prepared by Mike. To the best of your knowledge, does is Dan Rulo a firefighter on Ambulance 51?
Dan Rulo is a member of the department. I do not recall if he was working that day or if he was assigned to Ambulance 51 that day.
Do you recall being notified? And I know it's kind of the same question, but it's phrased different in what I'm reading, so I just want to clarify it. Were you notified of a possible
Again, the radio traffic I received was an incident possibly involving a knife.
Could you clarify what hot wash is?
A hot wash is a term used to discuss events immediately after they happen. It's typically done after incidents of significance to gather as much information as possible immediately after and to see how everybody's doing.
Did you respond to the parade route yourself?
I responded to the incident on the parade route. That is correct.
When you arrived to the scene, was there still any immediate danger that you recall?
It was difficult to gauge if there was any immediate danger. Radio traffic on the police side indicated that there had been shots fired, and certainly we had a large number of people fleeing. So that would be a tough question to answer.
Did you receive any information about the shots fired, who they may have been fired by?
I did not.
Did you receive any information that someone may have been injured by the shots that were fired?
I did not receive any information regarding that.
Do you recall who were the first arriving units to the scene?
The first arriving units to the scene were myself, Engine 1, and Ambulance 51.
So would it be fair to say that you would be B10?
That is correct.
And do you recall where you were positioned at when you arrived?
Yes, we turned right onto Main Street from Barstow, and we ended up probably 50 to 100 feet from that intersection, and I would say southwest of that intersection on Main Street.
Do you recall of any law enforcement attempting to clear the transportation routes?
At one point, I spoke with Sergeant Tokarski and asked him if he could assist me in opening up a route to get to the casualty collection point that we established.
Do you recall any loss of power in the downtown area?
Yes, I believe 1740, so 5:40 p.m., sometime around then. All the lights went out downtown. The downtown area lost power.
Do you recall receiving any information about what may have been the problem with the power?
Not at the time. However, later that evening, it was determined that a power line had gone down due to the high winds that evening.
So to the best of your knowledge, it wasn't due to the incident that you were responding to?
That is correct. I do not believe it was related.
Do you recall about what time you finally left the area?
I believe we cleared the scene about 6:40, 6:45 p.m.
Do you recall if it was already nightfall by that time that you responded?
Just to clarify, are you asking when we responded or when we left?
Roughly around the time you responded. Do you recall it being nighttime, dusk?
It was not dark outside yet. It was probably close to dusk. I mean, there was still light in the sky.
Definitely nighttime when you left the scene.
That is correct.
Did you receive any information about why you needed to respond so quickly to the scene?
I'm going to have to ask you to clarify that. We were dispatched by our dispatcher to respond to an incident, and in my line of work, that usually means you respond very quickly.
No information was given why you needed to respond so quickly?
Our system is set up so that our calls are triaged and our response levels are triaged accordingly. And in this case, this would have been a priority 1 response or intermediate response with lights and siren.
So it's really just get the call and go.
That is correct.
So to your knowledge, you didn't yet have information about why you needed to respond, but you know it was something that needed to be responded to quickly.
That is correct. We were initially dispatched to an unknown incident, and then it was clarified en route, as I mentioned, when the alarm was upgraded, that it was a motor vehicle versus pedestrian incident.
Motor vehicle versus pedestrian incident. Have you ever responded to any calls like that before?
Yes, sir.
You mentioned something about a accident plan, or if I'm wrong, you can correct me, but was that what I heard? An accident plan?
Incident action plan.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
What does that entail?
It's a plan that's put together usually prior to or during an event that describes how resources are going to be deployed to manage or handle the event.
So it's sort of like just having something in place in case of.
It goes a step further than that. It's a plan that's in place or implemented, for example, in this case, to control access to the downtown area, to identify who is responsible for what tasks, such as clearing vehicles or establishing parade route integrity, those kinds of things.
outside of the parade incident, to your knowledge, was there any more needed responses to any other incidents that may have been in the area?
While we were on scene at the parade, I believe that we received 2 other calls for service in the city.
To your knowledge, do you recall if they were directly related?
I do not.
No further questions. Thank you.
Your next witness.
Say we call Nicole White.
All right. First thing I will ask you to do is to state your first and last names for the record and spell each.
Nicole White, NICOLEWHITE.
Thank you. Go ahead, your witness.
Thank you. Ma'am, I'm going to direct your attention to November 21st of last year. Were you at the City of Waukesha Parade?
I was.
And were you a participant or were you a spectator?
I was walking with the Remax group.
Okay. So did Remax have a float in the parade?
Yeah, there was a van.
Okay. Is there anything unusual about the van?
It had like a fire projector off the back of the top of the van with like a basket.
How did it come about that you were walking with the Remax group?
My friend's mom was with the Remax group and had asked us to join and walk with them.
Approximately how many people were walking with you that day?